Oh my gosh, I would change like my approach to the game,
Yeah.
my approach to life, what I eat, how I slept, because that all has like a serious effect on how you perform, right? And obviously I wasn't aware of that.
8th pick of the 2012 NBL draft, the Moncton Miracles select Kamar Burke.
I go by the name of KB Cuts. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a director, and I'm an editor as well. I remember the people I grew up with in my neighborhood, they were like the guys who pushed me.
Yeah.
You know, like every day, and like I wasn't able to do anything. I couldn't smoke, I couldn't drink, I couldn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Because they said, KB, you can't do it, you're the baller, you're going to the NBA. So
Yeah.
that was everyone's push for me. And that motivated me to kind of create this identity of myself, like I can't do certain things because I want to go to the NBA. The only motivation you had was for me was like, okay, I need to get out of my neighborhood. Because I grew up in a rough neighborhood. So my goal was to get out of there. And for me, the only way I can actually get out of there was actually basketball.
Yeah.
So that's why basketball is so important to me, because it really took me out.
KB, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've read a lot about your story and everything you've done with Joybox, but also your story growing up and everything you did in basketball. I guess to start us off, I really want to dive deep into growing up. I think you grew up in Kelowna, right?
No.
Where do you grow up?
Toronto.
You grew up in Toronto? Okay.
I'm a Toronto boy.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, what was it like growing up? Yeah, tell me more about your background.
Yeah, so no, I grew up, born and raised in Toronto. I was actually, it's funny, I actually grew up, when I was younger, I wanted to be a skateboarder.
Nice.
Which is crazy. My mom always told me that I had a skateboard with me every time. And once I found the basketball, I think I just had this like obsession with it, you know. And I remember some people used to come to my middle school and we used to, I guess, like teach basketball.
Yeah.
And it was like a 10-minute break for basketball. And I remember I used to just stay and look at the hoop. Apparently, I used to have the ball and just shoot it.
Yeah.
Everyone else was playing tag and everything.
Yeah.
I just had an obsession with basketball, and I wasn't even that tall that time, so I naturally gravitated towards it. I don't know why, but I did, and it kind of just took me through, I guess, my whole childhood. Basketball was like brought me to my friends and brought me places around the world. So, but growing up, I just naturally attached to it, and I couldn't even tell you why. My older brother actually plays basketball too, so maybe that could be it.
Fair.
So maybe watching him grow, and I didn't have a dad growing up, so like he was like my dad, you know. So watching him play basketball and flourish, like it almost motivated me, like, yo, I can do that, but I can be better, you know.
Yeah. I'm curious to learn more about, you talked about your brother, you talked about not growing up with the dad. Tell me more about your family. Like, what was like family like? What did that mean to you? What did community mean like? I know you got into basketball. You did mention obviously your brother, and you're always just drawn to it. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, no, I have like I have a huge family. I can't even tell you how many people, but my dad's side is a certain amount of there's a lot of kids there.
Yeah.
And my mom's side, I actually grew up with like there's 6 of us.
Nice.
And 3 of us are basketball players. Me, my brother, and my oldest brother, and my full brother, who's actually in Navanga, who is actually in Saskatchewan teaching basketball as well.
Nice.
And so we all kind of grew up together, and we all had dreams, aspirations to play basketball.
Yeah.
And I guess my mom was always there. She never really like pushed us to play basketball. She pushed us to be happy with whatever we want to do. So like I never had like a crazy push. I wish I did have that push. That's why I wish like where dad comes in, right? Like I wish I had that, but I didn't have that. So I had to find my own, like, I guess my own push. And I remember the people I grew up with in my neighborhood, they were like the guys who pushed me.
Yeah.
You know, like every day, and like I wasn't able to do anything. I couldn't smoke, I couldn't drink, I couldn't do any of that.
Yeah.
Because they said, KB, you can't do it. You're the baller. You're going to the NBA. So that was everyone's push for me, and that motivated me to kind of create this identity of myself. Like I can't do certain things.
Yeah.
Because I want to go to the NBA.
A lot of people I talk to, it's a lot of the times the earlier influences are based on, the people that are around them, right? And I want to dive deeper into that. Like, what was it like, I guess, having that expectation, sort of that chip on your shoulder that, you're gonna be a basketballer and they want you to make it like an NBA or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, what was that like? Because a lot of people sometimes with expectations, like, it can either like bring you down or it could really push you, right? So how would you deal with that?
You know, it's funny. When I was younger, I didn't know because there was no IG those times.
Yeah.
Like I'm 36.
Yeah.
So when I was what? It was so long ago. There was no IG. There was none of that. So you didn't really know what was success in basketball. Like in terms of like now you can see followers.
Yeah.
He has the highlight film.
Yeah.
But like growing up, there was no like you didn't know you're doing great or bad. All you knew was just like you had a game. You want to make sure you do well on the court, right?
Yeah.
But like outside of that, there's no trainers. So like now everybody has a trainer. Every kid has a trainer right now.
Yeah.
But when I grew up, there was no trainers. There's none of that. So like the only motivation you had was for me was like, okay, I need to get out of my neighborhood because I grew up in a rough neighborhood. So my goal was to get out of there. And for me, the only way I can actually get out of there was actually basketball.
Yeah.
So that's why basketball is so important to me because it really took me out where I was, and obviously it brought me to Vancouver. So.
Yeah. And so going back to your childhood, you started playing basketball. Was it like in middle school, high school? What were some of like the coaches or the earlier influences at that point? And what was, you did say the goal was to make it out of the neighborhood, right? And that was kind of your way to it. But I'm sure there was also this passion, for
for sure,
actually enjoying like. So yeah, what was it like in like middle school, high school? What was that experience like?
In middle school, I was always one of the better players. In middle school, I was really good.
Yeah.
In high school, I was actually very, very good.
Yeah.
So I was always the better player. I was gifted. I didn't have to train hard, which is something that I learned the hard way, and why the basketball academy was very important to me.
Yeah.
Because I learned how to I learned the importance of working hard, right?
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I was just like, give me a basketball. Give me a basketball. I could do anything. I was just dunking on guys. I'm like, man, and everyone would ask me, yo, KB, how are you so good at this stuff?
Yeah.
I said, bro, I don't know. I'm just good.
Yeah.
I just had a natural ability, natural skill with basketball. And I committed to it. And I wish I did train, though, because I don't know where I'd be. I probably wouldn't be here right now if I trained.
Right. Yeah.
If I actually worked hard at it, I don't know, man. I think about that a lot, though.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I didn't have that push. All I knew was I was good at it, and if a coach wanted me to play on their team, I would go.
Yeah, I think we'll dive deeper into that later in our conversation. But I was curious to learn more. So I'm not sure how like basketball works here in Canada, but from the point of high school, and then I know you went to Thompson Rivers and then eventually UBC. What does that transition look like for an aspiring athlete that's in high school right now? What does it take to I guess like go to university with basketball?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I have conversations with kids almost like every other day.
Yeah.
About playing at a higher level. But one of the most important things that a lot of kids don't understand is the level of commitment you'd have to have nowadays from grade 9, grade 8. You'd have to be committed at that age. And the reason I say that is because there's so many more kids who are available, so many kids who are training, and it's just a different world we're living now, right? So like where your IG account is actually very important, which is like really weird to me.
Yeah.
Like you have to have, you don't have to have a solid IG, but like if you have an IG, it helps you. Like
really, it makes you stand out. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad to say, but like now just being a good player is great, but like there's so many good players, especially being in Vancouver, like seeing these kids. There's a lot of talented kids in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But the question is like, are they good enough to get out of Vancouver? And every kid wants to be out of Vancouver, but like, what does it take to get out of Vancouver?
Yeah.
Or whatever in Kelowna.
Makes sense.
Like, who can leave Kelowna? Who's good enough to leave Kelowna? It's difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're only competing against people in your community. So all you know is what you see. But the only way you can actually get better, you have to leave Kelowna and start playing against better players. But in Kelowna, it's tough.
Yeah.
Vancouver, it's tough. That's why Toronto players are just different, because they have New York, they have all these other, they have way better players in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
So they're competing every day with good players. And I think that's the main struggle with BC in general with basketball. But yeah.
Would you say, obviously things have changed a lot since when you were playing to now, but I like that you talked about like things like having an IG or, growing your personal brand outside of basketball. Like, I guess how would you go about that? Like, you have a skill, you're good at it, you're training really hard, but what are some of these other things that you need to keep in mind apart from like having that commitment or things of the sort?
Yeah, I guess every kid is so different in terms of the approach or where they want to go in basketball. like every kid wants to go to the NBA, but how many kids actually go to the NBA?
Yeah.
You know, and again, when I was growing up, I was one of the better players. And I got to play with the Raptors for a bit, like Terrence Ross and all these guys. And I quickly realized that I am not that good.
Yeah.
Like I was good, but I wasn't that good.
Yeah.
You know, and I could have committed to it and see if I can get better and play there. But I think you have to come to realization sometimes where it's like, you know what? Okay, I'm probably not going to go to NBA, but I can probably go to a university or college in town.
Yeah.
And I think once you get to the level of like when you get to the college, and if your goal is to, you know, get a 9-to-5 job, or your goal is to, I don't know, from there start your own company or build your brand, personal brand, and that's when you got to start thinking about your IG and everything like that, right? So I think those parts are not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Where players are so focused on going to the NBA, they forget about every other thing that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Aside from actually playing basketball, like I think one of the most, like right now with the new deal with the NIL, like you can actually get paid as a college player.
Yeah.
Like I would be thinking about that right now. Like obviously great. I want to be a good basketball player. But at the end of the day, it's like if I can get paid off of being a college basketball player by building my IG, building awareness of who I am, building my recognition, and building like a brand of myself, like I'd be on that 24/7. You know what I mean?
At that point, when you were like almost ending high school, were you set? Did you think your goal was to make it in the NBA, or would you say you were thinking about university? Because you did end up going to like Thompson Rivers and then eventually UBC, right? How did you make that transition, and what was going through your head at that time?
When I remember, because I sat out for 2 years after high school.
Yeah.
And again, I just had no guidance. I was doing stupid.
Yeah.
And when I took those 2 years off, I quickly realized like I'm not going to go to, because I had Division I offers and my SAT scores wasn't, they weren't the greatest.
Yeah.
So I had to go to junior college, or I had to go the route of Canadian college.
Yeah.
But in high school, I didn't know anything about Canadian college. I didn't know BC had a school. I didn't know any of that. All I knew was the States.
Yeah.
My brother was going to Thompson Rivers. And my mom said, go to school with your brother.
Yeah.
I said, where's he going? Thompson Rivers. I said, bro, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, where is that? It's in Kamloops. I'm like, bro, I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
I had Miami and all these other schools in Miami. Like I had Pensacola, Florida, that were really interested in me at the time. And I remember, I'm like, what am I doing? Am I go to Miami? Or I'm going to go to Thompson Rivers? But JUCO, and I was like, you know what? I'd rather be closer to my brother now. So me, him, and my other best friend, we all went to Thompson Rivers. Yeah. Went from Toronto, the ghetto, to Thompson Rivers, Kamloops. And I remember that was the day I realized, I was like, holy smokes. I don't know if I can do this. And you know what's crazy? It was my brother's idea to actually go there, and he left after the first year.
Oh.
So I was by myself after. Everyone left me. So I was alone in Kamloops. And at the time, there was probably 5 black guys in the whole city.
Wow.
So it was definitely a culture shock for me.
I feel like no one talks about that enough, right? Like making that change in your life, like one path, as you say, Division I offers, going to the US, and then going to Kamloops and starting a life that you necessarily never even saw, right? How did you manage like your first couple of years? You say your brother and then eventually left. Like what was your headspace like? And what was going through your head at that time, and where did you see yourself like moving forward at that point in time? Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying that bit of the podcast. I was hoping if you can potentially leave a review or subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're listening on YouTube. It would honestly mean the world, and this will help us to reach to more people and have that impact that we want to have. Thank you.
Oh, man. I remember when I was there, I mean, in all honesty, my goal was never to get a degree. I knew I wasn't going to do anything with that.
Yeah.
My goal was trying to go to the NBA.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can I go to the NBA through a Canadian college or university? Yeah. So I was like, man, I guess every day that was like the push for me. It was like, but the issue was with me, even those times, I wasn't training. I didn't have the right mentality. And I think that was my biggest struggle. I never had the right mentality when I was in university. And if I knew what I knew now, like, man, I'd be training so hard because I know I was capable of doing it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the right mentality, so it made, I guess, like, I wasn't aware how far I was from it.
Yeah.
And every single day, when I was going to practice, it wasn't like for me. I was like, man, I can do this. But like, I didn't know if I actually could do it.
Yeah.
But if I knew if I was training, you know what I mean? Because like, the goal was to get there. But like, I guess like, I don't know if I actually was even like. It's like I don't know if I even really believed that if I can do it. Now I think about it. You know, I thought it was just identity I had. Yeah. And I had to stick with that.
I feel like that's not like talked about enough, right? Like this, like, how do you have that mindset? Like, yes, you know, you want to make it in the NBA, right? But there's so many unheard stories. Like, you always hear like all the successes, but you never hear like of the people that, like, as you said at the start, how many people actually do make it in the NBA, right? So I guess if there's something that you would change, right? During that time on itself, you did talk about, you know, putting in a more, I guess, a better like work ethic or being more committed to it. What would you say is what would you change per se?
In terms of like my like when I was in school, like
yeah,
what I changed?
like,
oh my gosh, I would change like my approach to the game, my approach to life, what I eat, how I slept, because that all has like a serious effect on how you perform, right? And obviously I wasn't aware of that. Yeah. And my commitment to myself as a human being, just growing, you know, challenging myself and like stepping out of my comfort zone, just the things I didn't do. Like I remember I was really good. I never forget it. I had a crazy left jab, attack, finish right. Yeah. I so comfortable with that, and I beat everybody with it. Yeah. I did try to challenge myself. Maybe I can do the other side. Yeah. Stuff like that. I wish I thought about. I didn't think about it at all. And like now that I just think about like right now as we sit down and talk, I'm like, man, I wish I knew those things. You know, I wish I put time in and tried to work on my game. Yeah. Because it all happened when I went to UBC. That's when everything changed. I started working, but it was too late. Yeah. You know, but. Yeah.
And right there, I mean, let's go right into that. How did the transition to UBC happen, and what were your years like then? I know you were part of the Thunderbirds team, and you had your fair share of successes with that. What was that like, and what would you say is that thing that changed, you know, in the mindset, in everything that you were doing? Yeah.
It's funny because I have my brother. He's like my brother to me. Yeah. Daniel. He went to the TRU with me. Yeah. He like I'm 6'5". Yeah. I'm athletic. I'm long. I'm like the perfect ideal basketball player. Yeah. Daniel is 5'6", not long, not athletic. Yeah. But he works his ass off. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing I noticed about me. And I'm just like, man, I'm gifted, so I know I don't have to work as hard. When someone who's not as gifted. Yeah. And works super hard. And the scariest person is the person who is gifted and works that hard. The Kobe's, the LeBrons, right? Yeah. And you see why they're so successful. And for me, I'm like, man, I wish I knew that. But when I met him, he taught me how to work hard. He taught me how to train. He taught me how to push through, even when times are tough, to keep pushing through. And I'll tell him that to his face. I'll tell him this every time. It's like, you literally taught me you taught me how to train and how to be better. And commit that to myself. Yeah. And till this day, like Daniel, I mean, I always tell him every time, it's like, bro, you really changed my life in terms of like how I approached basketball. But it was too late. If I had that mentality when I was in TRU or high school, I know things would be different. But again, from TRU to UBC becoming better and understanding roles better. Because when I went to UBC, I wasn't the go-to guy anymore. We were so good. Yeah. TRU, I was the guy. Yeah. So I had to learn roles. I'm like, okay, I'm now not the guy that's going to score every time. We have guys that can do it. Yeah. You know, we had like Josh White. Josh White was super talented. Yeah. We had so many talented players on the team that I didn't have to score. So I was big, I was athletic, so I had to rebound, I had to defend. Yeah. And that was one of the most humbling experiences ever. Being the guy to being like not the scorer. And like, I actually lost confidence in myself, and it was definitely a tough time. No one really knows that. But I remember I wanted to score, I wanted to be the guy, but I wasn't. I had to accept that. Yeah. But yeah.
I feel like it's in those moments, those humbling experiences that you have. Yes, you did have a change. Like you were at TRU, you were the guy, and everyone was sort of like reliant on you, sort of, right? And then going to UBC, you had to change your position, and but it's in those moments that you realize, like, yo, like, I'm still in this position, like I'm still part of the team, right? Like there's still something for me, and that's when you, I guess, realize that, okay, maybe I took things for granted, or maybe I acknowledge like I'm still in a position where I can still do stuff. How do I now maximize all of it? And I feel like it's crazy how like life, I guess, gives us these moments. And if you don't have those moments, then you're always gonna take things for granted, right? So, yeah, curious to learn more about like how did you go from like, I guess, training that position, and you said it affected your confidence, and the like, I could relate to that for sure in many moments in my life. How did you, I guess, overcome that and move forward from there?
So I mean, I think the way I overcame it was I had to just be honest with myself and tell myself that just because I'm not the guy doing the scoring, or I'm not the guy on the team, I'm still very valuable.
Yeah.
You know, and I still played a lot of minutes and all that. Like I was really important to the team, but I just wasn't the level I was at TRU.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is ego. And I think a lot of men, a lot of us, and women too, we need to remove the ego sometimes. And that was the biggest lesson I learned, is that, you know what? I can be successful. I just got to remove my ego at times.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying forever.
Yeah.
You know, there's certain times the ego needs to be removed.
Yeah.
And I removed it, and we were successful. I mean, we didn't win a championship, but we went to the finals twice. Went to the finals, and then we lost in the semis. So we were solid. We were really solid.
Yeah.
And for me, I guess I always think about it, but I think back about it, and I'm like, man, it was the most important thing for real was like the power of like, one, understanding your skills, understand how important you are, just because even if people don't say it, you have to honestly believe it, you know? And I think for me, I had to obviously continue to tell myself that I'm amazing, I'm good.
Yeah.
But when you start training though, and you start putting the time in, you know your value.
Exactly, yeah.
Because now you're confident enough when you step on the floor, it's like, yo, I'm not going to drop. No one's going to steal the ball from me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn the ball over as much because I've been in the gym.
Yeah.
And I think you can tell when someone's been in the gym and someone who hasn't.
That is, that's so powerful. I feel like, especially, we live in a time, you talked about as young men, that ego, right? And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of young men, and it's very hard to be vulnerable and be honest with yourself. And if you're not surrounded by the right people, you don't have that push. You said your friend at the time, he taught you a lot about like hard work and having these honest conversations, right? I guess, what advice would you have for people that are in sort of that headspace right now? You know, you see social media and everyone has a lot to say about like masculinity and what it means to be a man, right? What would you say to, I guess, a young man that's listening right now? Yeah, I
mean, masculinity right now is crazy because you see the Andrew Tate, right?
Stuff,
and you're like, that's a man, that's a masculine man. I mean, I guess it is. You know, I think there's different forms of men. Yeah. Some men are very masculine that way, and some men are still masculine, but they're more they're more aware and understanding of like when to give it up. Yeah. It's okay to not always be rah guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's times where you can kind of I guess you can share it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you explain that, but like I feel like a lot of men think that being the rough and tough big guy is the way to go, and like that's how you really become successful. And I am definitely not that. Yeah. I think I'm more of a people person, and going off people's emotions and feelings, and just vibing with somebody, and understanding when I need to be that and when I don't need to be that. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest skill, is when you can look at someone and be like, hey, I don't need to be this person. Yeah. Because this person needs that. Exactly. Yeah. I don't need to do that for him. Yeah. So I can move a totally different way. Yeah. You know? And
I feel like it's not talked about enough. Like what you mentioned, that's like being empathetic, right? Like when you think of a guy, you don't think of the character trait like being empathetic or being like kind or being a people person, right? And I feel like that's a conversation that it's important to have, especially like as us in people that have platforms. How do we, you know, that next generation of men, how do we encourage that? And say like being empathetic and being kind is also a good like masculine trait, and you should embrace it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's so valuable. Going back to your time at UBC, so obviously you had a lot of successes with that. And then post UBC, you played for a team. And I think Moncton Miracles.
Oh, yeah,
Is that
yeah.
right? What was
Yeah.
your time like there? I know you also made it to like the All-Star team that year. I think 2018? Is it 2018?
27, 2014.
20.
I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think 14, 13, 14.
Yeah. What was that experience like? And yeah, talk to me more about that.
Yeah. So again, but the same guy, Daniel, when I left UBC, my goal was to go to NBA.
Yeah.
And I left. I didn't graduate. I said, I'm out of here. Peace
Yeah.
out. And one of the biggest things I learned was one. I mean, if you really believe that you can really do something, you like, no one's like, everyone's gonna tell you don't do it.
Yeah.
But you have to really believe, right?
Yeah.
So I had to look in the mirror and be like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm leaving school. I'm chasing this dream of going to the NBA.
Yeah.
And Daniel, who was there, he was there for me the whole time. We trained because I remember I had the draft for that league.
Yeah.
There's a draft every year. There's like 400 players that come in.
Yeah.
And so Daniel and I, we trained the whole summer. We were training every day. It was crazy. We were doing the craziest workouts.
Yeah.
I remember I was vegan. I was just a different. I was a totally different person.
Yeah.
Because my goal was like, I need to be the best I can be. You know. And I remember we went to the tryout. And as I was playing, Daniel was there, and Daniel approached me and said, "Yo, one of the teams want to pick you up in the first round."
Wow.
During the tryout.
Oh.
And they said, "We don't want you to actually play in the All-Star game. They don't want you to play in the All-Star game because they want to make sure that you're picked in the first round.
Wow.
Because if you do play in the All-Star game, other teams will probably pick you."
Yeah.
And I remember I went outside. Him and I went outside, and then we cried, bro. I was crazy. I was just like, man, like it was so much work to get there, even if it wasn't the NBA.
Yeah.
But it felt like for me, it was like I did something, you know.
It's huge.
And then the draft came, and I was picked, the first Canadian picked up, and Moncton was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
It was just amazing people. It snows a lot, but it was a very, very, very cool experience. And I realized that one, I don't want to play the pro life.
Yeah.
Pro life of basketball. I had like 5 different roommates. It's just cutthroat.
Yeah.
So every day my goal is like, I just can't get cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because guys are getting cut every month. It was just
Wow.
like crazy. It's like new roommate, new person. So, but I was happy. I stayed the whole time, and I was an all-star, of course. That was really cool. But
Yeah.
it was a very interesting experience. Another thing that I learned too was what we talked about, how we commit to like moving our egos. There's a guy on our team who's like, this guy was super talented. He was kind of like the go-to guy for the team,
Yeah.
and I had to be like, I almost like looked at him as like, I'm gonna make your life easier.
Yeah.
I'm gonna defend the best players and make your life easier.
Yeah.
Because I want you to score. And he looked
Yeah.
at me and he said, bro, please. Because after a while, you're defending the best players and scoring the ball. It's nice to have somebody that's looking out for you.
Yeah.
Even though this is a cutthroat league and I'm trying to get my own because we have to feed our family.
Yeah.
But I was like, if we all win,
Then yeah, like it's good for everyone.
it's
I mean,
good
yeah.
for everybody, right? So if I can make sure you win and I do what I need to do for you to win and you to score and all those points and I defend, then this whole team wins.
Yeah.
Then all of us make money.
Wow.
You know, but again, you have to be like,
Yeah.
it's a certain way of thinking. I don't think a lot of guys think that way
Yeah.
because everyone's so focused on being the guy.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, being the B guy is cool.
Yeah.
Being the C guy is cool.
Yeah.
Not everybody's the A guy. And I think that's one of the most important things. With IG, it's like everyone wants to be the A guy.
Yeah.
But like, again, I believe I'm the A guy, but I can be the C guy when I need to be. You know what I mean?
That is so powerful. I feel like, yeah, again, that's not talked about enough. Like, I feel like in the time that we're living in now with like social media and, you know, all this pressure on numbers and things of that sort, like you kind of experience that in your own version, like being in a cutthroat league. And I feel like it takes a lot of, like, people don't talk about like power and the fact that you're actually more powerful or more in a better position if you're able to look at the larger scheme of things and be like, yo, I'm going to take a step back and let this guy shine. In the grand scheme of things, that's good for the team. Like, I will do that. And at the end of the day, we'll all be successful. And it's this whole idea. If you want to go fast, like, go alone. but if you want to go far, go together, right? So
Exactly.
I think like you live that example, and I think that's so powerful. So post that, I'm curious to learn, how did you go from there to going in the music industry, and I guess doing some of the creative stuff that you did? What was that transition like? Was that something you were always like passionate about in the background? Like, how did that happen? Like,
That is, it's crazy because I have no background in like videos at that time.
Yeah.
I had nothing.
Yeah.
All I knew was I liked basketball, and when I was playing for Moncton, everybody on contract, we had to show up and we had to run basketball camps, and it's part of the contract.
Yeah.
And remember, none of the guys wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But I was naturally just good at it, and I didn't know how good I was at it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
Kids like me, I had good energy. I was like, oh, okay. So that's when I realized I was like, okay, I can probably do something with this.
Yeah.
And I remember at the end of the year, I said, you know what? I'm not going to play again. I'm going to move to Kelowna.
Yeah. Start an academy.
And I'm going to start a basketball academy.
Oh.
And that's exactly what I did. Because the one thing I knew was that I knew I can get people and kids to feel comfortable around me. I knew I can get parents to love me. And I knew I can get these kids to want to learn from me.
Yeah.
Because I can make it fun. At the same time, it's very informative. And also in Kelowna, being in Kamloops, being in Kelowna, being in BC, just being around there, I was like, come on, I think this place doesn't really have anything like this. Yeah. Especially me being a 6'5" black guy, like, you're not gonna find that in Kelowna. I'll tell you that much. So I knew I had an upper hand. So when I went there, things kind of just made sense. But from there, when I was teaching the kids, I had to get a camera because IG was just popping up. I remember.
Yeah. And
I was just filming the kids when they were playing. They're training. I was just filming. And, and I got Final Cut. And I was like, oh, let me edit here. I edited a few things. I put it out. And at the time, it was not many people were doing that.
Yeah.
And I just kept doing it. Kept making videos of me playing, videos of everything. And I just kept putting it on IG to the point like someone says, yo, do you want to shoot something for me? Oh. I say, what? Shoot something for you? Yeah. I said, sure. Showed up, shot it, came home, edited in a day. And that's when I realized I was obsessed. Yeah. And I realized I'm very obsessive with things. The Basketball Academy, I was just like, Filming, I was like, interest. It's new, different. Yeah. And I didn't want to always be known as a basketball player. I was like, this is my way out, being not a basketball player. And I can be I don't know what it would be, filmmaker, editor, but I dove into it. Yeah. And then, people started hitting me up for music videos. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And I got paid. I never forget, I did a UBCO video in Kelowna. Yeah. And me and my buddy Henry, and we actually filmed it was a Halloween party. Yeah. And we filmed it, and they gave us $100. Oh. And I was like, wow, I get $100 for shooting videos? Come on, bro. And once I seen the first $100, I'm like, I can make it 10. Yeah. I can make 20 off this. Yeah. So just more time and patience and just kind of learning more,
Yeah, that's so powerful. I want to talk about, I feel like we didn't dive too much into the academy story, and I feel like that's huge, man. Like, we talked about your background and growing up in the neighborhood that you did and your whole journey with basketball. It takes a lot to make that decision of, you know what, like, I think I'm gonna, I guess, take a break from being pro, and cause you could continue that path, right? It takes a lot to be like, okay, you know what, I think I'm gonna move to Kelowna and start my own academy. And I feel like that's like, I'm curious to learn more about that transition. And also, you're helping kids at the end of the day, right? Like, I think I read somewhere like 150 kids, and you did that for years, and I feel like that's so powerful. Like, tell me more about that, and like, what is it about you that pushed you towards that starting an academy?
Yeah, I think when I trained with the Raptors, after my first year of playing pro, again, it was easy for me to see that I wasn't going there to where I wanted to be. Yeah. And I was 27 at the time, and I'm like, do I want to continue this? Do I want to continue chasing this dream? Yeah. And do I want to be that guy? Because I know a lot of guys, man, who are like chasing that pro contract, that very, very minimum, that like you don't get paid as much, right? Yeah. Like, do I want to keep chasing that, or do I want to become more of a businessman? Yeah. Can I do that? Am I capable of doing that? Yeah. So I remember that's when I picked up Gary Vee. I picked up all these books I used to read. I read Seth Godin and all them. So I was like, okay. I started reading, started learning more. But that transition from playing pro to academy, it almost felt like it was natural because I was already doing basketball camps with the team I was with. And also when in the summertime, I was training myself. And then all these kids were around me when I was training. Nice. And my agent was training me, and these kids were training me, so I would train them as well. And my agent was doing all the crazy drills. Yeah. And I was doing with them too. Yeah. So it almost became it just came like a natural. It was I think something that just had to happen. Yeah. And then when I went to Kelowna, it just came very easy. I was like, okay, I am so good at it's like if you put me in a gym. Yeah. With 20 kids. And give me a basketball and give me 2 hoops. Yeah. I'll make sure those kids are the best time of their life. Yeah. When parents are watching, it's even better. Yeah. Because now it's a performance. It's the same thing as basketball. You put me on a basketball court to play, and I'm ready. Yeah. I'm performing. I'm gonna outperform all you guys because I'm gonna work harder than all you guys. Yeah. And I think it's the same thing as a basketball academy. It's like every kid that came in the gym, my goal was to the kid to leave and the parents to leave and be like, that is fucking amazing. Yeah. I need to come back. So that was my motivation. Yeah. But once I lost that burn, or I didn't care as much, that's when I was like, okay, I'm done. I need to go. I got to go to this other route of videos.
Just a quick one. If you see value in this conversation, I want to take this further and introduce you our weekly newsletter. The goal of the newsletter is to provide resources, opportunities, and show you guys some of the behind the scenes stuff that we have. So if this is of your interest and you want to gain more value from the podcast, I recommend using the link in the description to subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you.
I know we talked about your start in, getting some of these paid gigs. You learned how to edit videos and stuff. You're getting paid for it and you want to grow that. How did you go from that bit to actually, you did a lot of production and film, and music as well. How did, I guess, now that you figured out and you started becoming more obsessive, how did that transition happen?
From film
to actually working with some big music people.
Oh, okay. And yes, that kind of just happened randomly, man. Yeah. I know I talked about last time. Massari was a guy. He really put me on, but it's crazy how the power of being a good person when I was such a young age, how it came back to help me. Because a lot of the connects I've made were when I was playing ball. A lot of guys just liked me because I was always a nice guy. Yeah. So they just put me indoors where I shouldn't be in. Yeah. I remember one time I was on set for it was a Tory Lanez, I think it was a Tory Lanez music video, Tory Lanez and Massari, and I remember these kids were on set. They're looking at me because I was doing all the behind the scenes stuff, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, how did you get here, man? Oh my gosh." Yeah. Asking me what school I went to and everything. I said, bro, I didn't go to film school. They're what? How are you here then? I said, I don't know, just make videos. At the time, I didn't know the process, just get film school and then film school from here, you go to PA and then all from there, you got to build up there. I just went in with just talent and charisma, I guess. Yeah. And it kind of got put in the door. So I'm aware that my position, the way it happened for me is not necessarily, not everybody gets it that way. Things kind of happen for me just because the past and my experiences just with basketball and the people around me. I think things or doors open for me more than it should.
Nah, I feel like you should give more credit to yourself. Clearly you maintain certain relationships and you were an authentic self. You were being yourself, you were being kind, and I'm sure obviously that's how relationships are made and connections are made, right? A lot of people go into this idea of, oh, I'm going to network with this guy and reach out and ask him for a coffee chat and maybe in return I'll get something. But it never works like that. You just meet one person and just be yourself and see how you can add value and vice versa, and things go from there.
Yeah, but another thing too is when you're a filmmaker, it's hard to price your value. Yeah. What your value is. Oh, how much does it cost to do a Instagram video? Oh, $700. Yeah. Why? It's too much. Yeah. So I think one of the things that's so important, especially being a videographer, is one thing I did really well was know when to charge and when not to charge. And it's again, you have to remove the ego sometimes. Yeah. And be like, you know what? I'm gonna give this video for whatever $500 less than I would. Yeah. Because I know this could happen. Yeah. Even if this didn't even happen,
Still,
it's
like,
still because like that person who you're working with, that person could tell another person that you know what I mean. It just kind of keeps on going.
Yeah.
But again, some people are doing it consistently and they're not seeing any growth. So like, obviously a lot of it's like it's understanding who you are and understanding your like I guess your skill level.
Yeah.
Because if you're not there,
Yeah.
then maybe you shouldn't be. You know what I mean? You gotta measure it properly,
I get what
right?
you're saying.
But I think it's that was one of the most powerful things for me was like knowing when I should charge and what should I charge and when I shouldn't charge.
Yeah.
And that really opened the doors for me because then people who respected me, they like expected to be expected to be paid.
Yeah.
And some people like who want it for free, and sometimes I do it, but
Yeah.
sometimes I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But then I just ask myself, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of decisions were made based off of like my connection with the person and how much value do I see in myself and how much value do I see in them and how I value in our relationship.
Yeah.
And then from there, it can probably take off and we can do way bigger things in the future,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But it's an investment, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's the best way to look at it. Like thinking about just relationship building as a person to person. Like how do you connect? How you helping each other and growing together? I feel like that's so valuable. There's two things I saw on your profile. One was your work with like Universal Music and also the 100 Collective. Talk to me more about those two experiences and what that was like.
Yeah, so Universal was so Gavin Shepherd. Gavin put this guy. Sorry, I gotta say Gavin, bro, you're the realist, because Gavin put me on so many things in Toronto.
Yeah.
And he gave me such a platform in terms of like every musician in Toronto was reaching out to me.
Wow.
Or he was reaching out to me to do edits.
Yeah.
And I remember one time this all again, relationships, right?
Yeah.
Gavin sent me a video to edit. I did the edit. The artist didn't really like it. Gavin still paid me.
Wow.
I looked at him and said, "Bro, you didn't have to."
Yeah.
But he did it, you know? And I'm like, I'll ride for this guy forever. Because I remember I did a lot of videos because Gavin has a company called Public Records.
Yeah.
And I was working with Public Records.
Yeah.
Like we're like just everything that Public Records did, I did.
Yeah.
Everything that came out, I edited or shot. And sometimes I would give them for free or like very low price.
Yeah.
You know, because I knew the value in them.
Yeah.
And they knew the value in me.
Yeah.
Until this day, we're like this, you know?
Strong relationship.
And it's just like me understanding like I could have said I want $2,000 for this video.
Yeah.
Okay, but you can't afford it. I don't care. I want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I get what you're saying.
So so Public Records, Universal, like that was really, really important.
Yeah.
That was a really important in my life because like that's when I really grasped the whole idea of music videos and fast edits and short form edits.
Yeah.
And they really understood the value of IG.
Yeah.
And I think we worked together really well because I have an understanding of what to do and they had an expectation and understanding of what needs to be put out for the artist. And I think we crushed that every time.
Yeah.
To this day, I think it's one of my best works working with them. It was like amazing.
Yeah.
And then 100 Collective, Tiong Gibbs is my guy.
Yeah.
We started it together actually.
Nice.
We started it together and because we wanted to we liked the idea of colors. Remember
Yeah.
colors? Where artists come on stage and
Yeah,
like, they
yeah.
perform in the background. So
Yeah.
we loved that. We're like, yo, let's do that in Vancouver. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we started doing it until we realized that it actually gets expensive, bro. We have to get the studio and then my time. And I remember we were doing it and we kind of just, I guess it was one of those things where like you invest so much time and for me, it's just like obviously I'm doing the videos, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I can't commit that much time to it.
Yeah.
Because I need to start making money.
Yeah.
You know? Especially this is roughly around COVID and everything too. But then that's when Joybox came along, right? It kind of just, it was like, I was doing 100 Collective and then Joybox kind of came and I was kind of doing both a little bit. And then slowly I started gravitating towards more so Joybox. Because I felt like we had a better connection in terms of where to shoot. And 100 Collective was the videos that we were doing, it was like extreme long form. Like it looked so good, right?
Yeah.
I watch it now. I'm like, man, these videos are so beautiful. It
Yeah.
looks so nice, and it's like,
Yeah.
but the Joybox was like
Short form.
quick. I was like, okay, this is way easier.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid in either,
Yeah.
but I can commit more time to this one.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And that is when like obviously you and Sam connected, saw the potential in TikTok short form content. And we're talking to Sam and Sam was like, you guys sort of were able to grow so much but it was hard to monetize. And he talked about how you were in your final month, Q4, like you didn't have that much money. And there was really that point where you had to make that decision, like, should we continue doing this? Should we do it for 1 month? Curious to learn more about that growth, and then also when you did come to that point, like what was it that told you that, like, this is the thing, I want to continue doing it?
It's so funny because Sam is such a smart individual, and he's so young.
Yeah.
And he's brave.
Yeah.
And like he knows what he wants.
Yeah.
And but sometimes being young, like you're not aware of like what can happen in the future if you just commit to something a little longer.
Yeah.
And sometimes Sam wanted to just quit sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do this anymore. I got to do something else.
Yeah.
And I said, Sam, please, just stick with this, bro.
Yeah.
Because we're like at the point where there wasn't much money coming in, right?
Yeah.
But so we had to believe. And I was like, there's something here. We built a nice following on TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok was fresh.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna wanna help us out.
Yeah.
Or we'll land another deal.
Yeah.
And but yeah, so like a lot of it was like sometimes I had to almost like convince Sam to stay on board.
Yeah.
But again, this kid can do anything he wants. Like he's so smart. He can literally raise money in seconds.
Yeah.
He can do anything he wants.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like the fact that he wanted to stay with me when I knew what he's capable of doing,
Yeah.
and he still wants to stick around. I was like, man, I am very grateful because this kid could go off and freaking be the next freaking Elon Musk. He can do anything he wants, right? But he stuck around, and I until this day I always tell him I appreciate that, the fact that you stuck around and you took a chance on me, bro.
Yeah.
So
I feel like obviously you guys eventually got acquired by Game Lancer, and now you've worked with some of like the biggest companies and biggest clients. I feel like I want to dive deeper into yours and Sam's relationship. You guys do have like a bit of an age gap, so like even when I see you guys, like it's so interesting. Like even when I met you the first time, I feel like that's so interesting. But yeah, what is it like working? Like, do you feel like you complement each other? For someone that's starting off, like you can't do everything on your own. So how do you find that business partner? Like how does that come about? Like,
I believe, like, I worked with so many people. I believe working with Sam was interesting because we both didn't have a father growing up. So that was one of the main connections we had, was that we didn't have a father. And I think when you don't have a father, you have a certain type of personality.
Yeah.
And a certain type of grit.
Yeah.
And like we have a certain, we're very both emotionally aware, and we both communicate really well about how we feel, which sometimes could be great and sometimes could be terrible. Yeah. Because sometimes we butt heads.
Exactly. Yeah.
We both tell you how we feel, but how we handle like any frustrations or anything that we dropped the ball on, we handle it so well. And after a first like disagreement, I realized like, okay, this guy's be a partner for life, bro. Yeah. Like he's a kid, or I look at him like, this guy is, not only is he smart, he's so in tune with who he is. Yeah. And he inspires me to be better at that, And I think a lot of times I had to work on things that I need to communicate better with him, because he's such a good communicator. Yeah. But obviously being young, I'm 36, he's 24. Yeah. There's a lot of things where I have to be like the dad, you know? Be like the protector. Yeah. And sometimes he needs some sort of like guidance on certain things, whether it's like, like confidence or not dropping the ball, or when he does drop the ball, how should, you know what I mean? So like I'm always there to be, almost like his listener. Like I listen to him when he goes through the stuff, because he needs somebody. And sometimes I feel like I play that role for him. Yeah. So like we have such a crazy relationship where even though I'm older, I still almost like, it's like I'm younger, because I ask him questions about business that I don't know. So he taught me so much about business. Yeah. So like I have to remove my ego on a daily basis. Yeah. Because I'm looking at a 24-year-old kid, and he's guiding me in business. Yeah. And I have to be okay with that.
That's huge. Yeah.
So like that's my everyday grind is like trying to because sometimes like when we have disagreements, sometimes it's like I have to be okay and understand that, one, he's younger. Yeah. And two, he has a better understanding of business and being a CEO than I do. And I have to take B.
I see.
And then there's times where it shifts.
Like the creative side,
Yeah, I have to be the guy for that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what makes us really, that's why I think we're going to win no matter what. In anything we do, we're going to win. Yeah. Because we're not competing with each other. we're trying to help each other because we both care about each other and we both want to win at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's so inspiring to hear, and I feel like when you do find that person in your life, like you gotta stick to them. Like whatever happens,
100%.
like as you say, like he's gonna be your partner for life. That's powerful. We did talk about what it's like being black in Vancouver and or in Canada in general, and even in the industry, like be it business, be it in other industries. It's hard to, I guess, find that representation and be that person, right? Talk to me a little bit more about that. And how is it like? I know something that you talked about is you want to be that figure for other young black kids growing up, right? And yeah, just talk to me about that.
Yeah, no, it's actually funny because when I went to Kamloops, again, I was the only black guy in first thing I think on the team there was me and my brother.
Wow.
The black guys, but at that time there wasn't many black people in Kamloops. Like, this is what it is. Yep. In Vancouver there wasn't many as well. Even till this day, it's better now. But but it was still those times it was tough. But I remember when the first time Sam brought me on a corporate call. I've never been on a corporate call before. I was dealing with like music artists and stuff, and I remember it was just like, and everyone was white, and I guess it's normal, right? So when I see, I'm like expecting that. Okay, cool. And I was like, man, like, there's not many black voices who are in the executive seats, right? Yeah. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I wonder how can I get to that point where I can be up there and also and like make young kids believe that they can be there as well, right? Because you only see, like, you only want to be stuff that you can see, right? Exactly. I think all I seen was NBA players in NBA. Yeah. NBA players, black guys in NBA. Football. Yeah. Rappers. Yeah. That's us. Like, again, that's a struggle growing up, especially growing up, like, that's all we seen. Yeah. So it's like, is that my only way out of this neighborhood that we grew up in? Yeah. Being a rapper, musician, basketball player, or athlete? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, that's all we have. So it's like, I want to be at that point where I can almost be like the beacon for it, especially in BC or in Canada. Yeah. I know there's a lot of guys, obviously there's a lot of black creatives now who are stepping up, and it's amazing to see that. But I want to make sure, for me, like, I want to have a seat up there, and I want to give everyone fair chances, and I want to continue to inspire young kids, man. Yeah. Like right now, like, I think it's really cool. And my IG right now, one video is going so well, and everyone's kind of reaching out. And I think it's so cool to see that, man. I wish I had that when I was younger, you know. But so I just want to, hopefully I can be that. That's the goal.
And would you say, like, that is what drives you, and that's what pushes you every day to be that person for a lot of other kids growing up? That's what, like, I guess it's your why, your big why.
Yeah, like, because even to this day, like, whether black, white, it doesn't even matter. Yeah. There's a lot of kids that I do speak to a lot, and it's about business or about basketball. And I think I have this, I guess I have like a more of a father figure type feel, where like a lot of young people kind of look up to me and ask for advice in certain things. Yeah. Whether it's not even about business, it's just about like just life in general, right? And I think for me, it's like, I think when they ask me questions, because I think a lot of it was I've been through a lot of stuff that they might be going through. Yeah. Whether it's the creative side or athlete side. Yeah. And being able, a lot of kids don't want to go to school nowadays. And I feel like the fact that I didn't go to school, those things I can relate to them. Yeah. So I think I have a natural, like, I guess, a natural attachment toward those kids. Yeah. And the goal would be eventually to the point where it's like, I can have, like, it'd be cool to have like a podcast, have my podcast, and I just continue to have people on. Yeah. And continue to inspire, man. And let people believe that they can actually do shit. Man. Yeah. You can actually, anything you really want to do, you can do it, but it's just like maneuvering and try to find your way in, right? So I think for me, I want to be that, and I'm going to continue to work at that.
That's powerful. I guess we are towards the end. The goal of the podcast is to create that, right? For anyone that's hearing, that has an idea, that wants to be an athlete, that wants to be in the arts, going to film, whatever it is. This idea that you don't have to wait until tomorrow or wait until a certain bit in your life to start that. My grade 3 teacher used to say, tomorrow never comes, when I used to tell her, like, I'll submit my homework tomorrow. And that stuck with me. So what would you say to anyone that's listening that does want to achieve something, whatever the field may be, what would your advice be for them?
Simple as like, be a good human being.
Mm.
Just care about human beings, you win.
Yeah.
As simple as that. Because you can only win, I think, like, unless you're like obviously crazy at LeBron level,
Yeah.
like in terms of like being Elon Musk or like the best of the best of the best. But majority of us are not going to be there.
Yeah.
So we're going to need some other support to push us out, right?
Yeah.
So how do we become? How do I get you to become to support me? Just be nice to you.
Yeah.
Reach out if I can.
Yeah.
Say hello when I see you.
Yeah.
Those small things like that goes a long way, right? I think we all have to we forget about being a good person is so valuable nowadays. And people, like, it's such a simple thing, but people forget that. And Joybox was legit built off of being good.
Yeah.
People are wearing hoodies around the city, and I'm like, wow, because it's just caring about others gets you so much further than not caring about others. As simple as that.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
What a great way to, I guess, end this conversation. Thank you so much, KB.
Thank you.
I'm honestly so inspired, and yeah, I feel like everything that you've done and your journey will definitely serve as an inspiration for so many young people, and hopefully we'll be able to do that. So thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you for everyone for allowing me to come on here and speak. It feels great. This is my second podcast, and I'm hoping to do more.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I hope you are as inspired by this conversation as I was. If you'd like to follow our journey and learn more about some of the other episodes, I encourage all of you to check out our social media platforms at Leaders of Today Pod. That is at Leaders of Today Pod. Before we end, I want to remind you that as young people, we're not only the leaders of tomorrow, but we're the leaders of today.